I'm sure like having a product mindset, applying that to parenthood,
Oh
try to
man, we
say, all
did.
right, got to do my research. How do I
We
apply these
Oh,
prioritize
learnings?
this.
yeah. Oh, my wife was like done with me because before the baby was born, I like wanted to do like a road mapping session of like, here's all the things we need to accomplish. Does it need to happen before the baby, right before the baby, or after the baby? Because like we just had so much to do, and she was just like, ugh. And I got Post-it notes out. She loves it now. She's very on
Wow.
board with it now.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Without a Roadmap. This is the podcast for product folks who get the job done but are still figuring it out. My name is Yonas.
My name is Cameron. Yonas and I are both product people at Parlor.io, which is a startup located in downtown Boston. Today, we're joined by the wonderful Anna. So Anna, why don't you tell us who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Anna Eaglin. I am a principal product partner at a company called Innovatemap. We are a digital product agency located in Indianapolis, Indiana.
So to begin, why don't you walk us through how you got to Innovatemap?
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, do I want to use years? I don't know. I'm not going to because I think I'll mess things up. But I started my career. So I got my master's in HCI, so Human Computer Interaction Design, which basically teaches you to be a UX designer. So I had come out of undergrad with a liberal arts degree. Wasn't happy with kind of my job prospects. It was kind of around the last recession we had, so the financial crisis recession, and wasn't a lot of great jobs out there. I wasn't happy. I always wanted to work in tech. I wasn't sure how to make that happen. So for me, it was about going back to school. And there weren't boot camps, like there are now, like UX boot camps and things. So I got my master's degree, and I ended up in a design agency in Columbus, Ohio. Where I learned a lot. I learned how to do a lot of research. It was a very research-focused agency, so a lot of user research, some UX design, and then I connected with Christian Beck. So he's we co-host the Better Product podcast for Innovatemap, but we got connected because he also went through the same HCI program I did, and he recruited me to come to a company called Teradata. It's now called Primo in Indianapolis, a software company. And I had been a UX designer in an agency environment, but I'd never been an in-house designer, which I'm sure, as you all know, kind of agency work versus in-house work is very, very different. So I was really interested to have a different challenge. Yeah. So I did that, working in as a UX designer for a couple of years, left that job and went with Christian, actually, as well as a couple other people on the team, and started up Innovatemap. So there, I started my career there in UX, definitely leading up the research team as well. But I just wanted a different challenge. Being a UX designer was great. I wasn't the best UX designer in the world. But I think I'm a really good problem solver, and I really liked some of the product management work I got to do. So I started to kind of transition out, especially being more research oriented and research focused. I started to transition more toward product management. So then in like the last 5 years, I've really basically taken on product management full time. I don't have to do any UX design anymore, which is great because it was really hard for me. And,
You don't miss it a little bit?
And but I learned a lot though. I think, I missed the heads down time. I'll say that. That was really nice to be able to just like, I have a task, put my head down, I'm going to get some things done. But I definitely wanted to work a lot more with the business. Work a lot more at high levels, especially when we work with, founders thinking about product strategy. And so I wanted to kind of expand my capabilities, and product management was the best way to do that for me. So that's kind of been my role ever since.
Yeah, that's the beauty of product is, you can have expertise in, one of the other, functional groups like, design, for example,
Right.
and like still transition a product and like, not have to use it on a daily basis, but it's going to be a huge impact on the rest of the team and your ability to be able to communicate the kind of UX experience into how you like manage product. And that's what I love about it. It's like, you can come from anywhere and your transferable skills will definitely be applied.
Yeah, you're totally right. I mean, great. Much better. I think it makes me a better collaborator with UX designers, but being a UX designer, I work really close with technical teams to get things built. So yeah, totally transferable. And the ability to now kind of move more toward the business side has been kind of the learning for me, which has been really interesting.
And just another interesting thing is going from your last company and starting, bringing a team over to start Innovatemap is like something that I didn't start Parlor, but the 4 folks from Firecracker, our last company, went off to start Parlor, and I think there is something super unique about being able to find this this cohesion with the group, being able to realize that you work well together, and it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They went off, started Parlor,
100%,
and brought me on board. Whether or not that's the same thing, who knows? But
no, it is. I mean, you're right. Like, so much tech is such an interesting, I think, industry, and it's different from a lot of other industries because, one, you're totally right about product management. People move into different roles very fluidly because tech is ever evolving and changing. And so it's very, very common for me to be like, I'm doing this, but I'm going to change it. I'm going to do this. And like other industries, people don't change roles like that.
Right.
You have to go to school, you get the degree, you have a very specific track, and then you die, And so we're lucky that we get to move around quite a bit more. But also it's so much about people, and especially, and like the really like innovative new product bringing, sorry, I'm getting a phone call. That's great. The really like innovative, bringing things to life type work, like having a good team, having a cohesive unit, people you really like working with, people you have normed, informed, and stormed with. It's a huge part of getting things done.
Wow, I haven't heard those 3 words together in a long, long time. The norm, form, and storm.
Yeah. What is it? Form, storm, norm, perform, right?
Something like that.
You're agile. Yeah.
I'm lost. Like, should I know this? Am I getting like?
It's like, gosh, I learned it in agile training like a long time ago. It's like when you because like agile teams should be like these like kind of these you put these dev teams together with a PO and a PM and maybe a scrum master, and like it's like how teams form, right? When a team comes together, they form and then they storm, like they're getting to know each other, and then they will normalize at some point where they can like get things done, and then they'll perform because they work really well together. So it's like, then you can track your burn down or whatever specific metric that is. But it's all about just like team formation. Yeah.
This was like, I think I learned this in my sophomore year of college. It's like it was called the OB class, which is organizational behavior. And they just talked about putting you into groups and turning that group into a team. Like they had this big thing where like a group you're in is in a team. It was like a big lecture. It was a whole thing.
Interesting.
Yeah, you could you probably major in, there's probably some like management consulting jazz up in there. Yeah. Well, I would love to talk a little bit more about like what Innovatemap does, because I think the concept of a product agency isn't something that I was super familiar with before I was, opened up to Innovatemap. And I think it's super interesting because it kind of, like in theory, seems to like work against some of what I feel or what I've heard about like products and building good product. And first off, being that you have to have this domain expertise to really be able to provide value on the product side, and even in planning, and then also like just being deeply ingrained within a team. Like that's kind of throughout that process, you're naturally gonna better understand the needs of that product and market in particular. So I just want to hear from your perspective, like what it's like being a part of a product agency, and kind of like what your goal is with each company. And I know they're going to come in at different stages, but if you can try and like condense that into one kind of approach that you might take.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And we get that question a lot, obviously, because we're kind of doing something that there's not a lot of precedence for. There's lots of different agencies in the marketing agencies, design agencies, dev agencies. But product agencies are kind of a newer thing. And I think what you said, like the idea of having domain expertise and the idea of being like very, very integrated into a team, I don't think that those things are mutually exclusive with working with a product agency, because a lot of the companies that we work with, they have those product people there, and it's a matter of we come in and we help them, figure out what that next thing is, revamp the product that they've got. So, when you are building a digital product, whether you are building it for the very first time as a startup founder, you have nothing in the world, or you're a huge company that has multi-level products, and you want to either bring you to a new market, you want to revamp what you've got, you want to kind of rethink how these products play together, you have a product team do that. So the idea that you would go to a dev team to build it, a design team to design it, or a marketing team to bring it to bring it to the world, all great product people know that you have got to have product management and product marketing to make that successful. And so we're basically taking those disciplines and allowing us to be a product team for our clients. So we come together as kind of your product team. So again, if you're a startup, a lot of times we are your product team, right? So we're working with the founder, we're understanding business goals, we're, identifying what they want to build, what's the MVP, how does it look, what are the designs, what are the stories that need to be written, and then we can kind of hand off to dev. But basically these disciplines are super important to make sure you are building the right thing for the right audience and it's going to resonate with them. And so domain expertise is extremely important, but it's not necessarily important that I have the very deep domain that maybe you have. However, we're going to be working together to get this done. I need to understand what you do. I need to understand your business. I need to understand your business goals. But at the same time, sometimes it's really valuable for me as an outsider to come in and say, well, why are you doing things this way? As opposed to just the way that we've always done things. So it's interesting too, because as long as I've been doing this, there are patterns across all industries, across all products. So we see a lot of really, really similar problems, even from like pharma to finance. I mean, people are having the same issues with their customers. They're trying to solve the same issues. Everybody's got users' permissions, profiles, signups, onboarding. Like so many product patterns are really similar that we can find ourselves really, really useful just from our expertise. But we still want to learn, we still need to know the domain because it has to make sense for especially something highly regulated. But yeah. So yes, and I would say to what you just said.
Yeah, so it's much more than just a freelancer or a few freelancers. You're embedding yourself essentially or with the team, or in some cases, you are the product team.
Yeah, it's never just one of us. It's never just like, oh, Anna, I need a product manager. Can you come work on site for 7 weeks? Like that's not how we like to engage. We, we figure out like what you're trying to accomplish and what are your business goals, and we staff that team accordingly. And so, as a PM, a lot of times I'm generally brought together with a UX designer, with, a product marketing representative, a product marketer, someone from brand, and we'll run like a whole process. But what's really interesting too, I think, about the way that we work is that our agency is even structured in an agile way. So we don't bill time and materials. We don't set out a long project where the project is going to be this much, it's going to run this long, and here's all the deliverables you're going to get. We want to know what that's going to be because we have to plan scope, but we work from the capacity. So we build a backlog of the things that you want to accomplish, and then we work from that backlog. And if the next month your priorities change, let's reprioritize the backlog. So in a way, we're not a traditional agency in that we don't operate that way either. We operate in a much more agile, product-oriented way, which works really, really well for our customers once they get it, because they're so used to engaging agencies really traditionally, and that's just that doesn't work well with product, because as you guys know, that's why we run backlogs, not why we write project plans, right? Because things change, things come up, priorities shift, the business changes, COVID happens, pandemics happen, and you have to be able to adapt and adjust to that without writing big, contractual changes, if you will.
Got it. So like for you, for example, you can have multiple clients you're working on at the same time, but it's all just pulled from the backlog in terms of their priority and then your capacity.
We define a capacity with each client. So, we say, you want this, like this is the capacity based on what you tell us that you need. Here's the capacity we recommend. And here's kind of, how long it will take us to do what you want at that capacity. Again, just like the capacity of your backlog. And so I have some clients, I work with some startups where they come, they have an idea, maybe they have a product that's like kind of, duct taped together, like a low code, no code type situation, but they've got some market validation. So it's like, it's time to build what the thing is. And so we'll go again, all the way from vision to concepts and, work really closely with them and their dev team to get that built. And then we have some, customers that come in and they have a feature, just a new feature to this existing thing that they want to get built. And we'll go through that process as well. So it's all different types of problems that we're solving for all different sizes of companies.
How are you guys able to measure success when you're only capable of really there's only so much you can do. There's a lot that's on their hands, and I don't know how their actual output reflects on the work that you're doing.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it just depends. It depends on the company, right? Like sometimes success for us is acquisition. Sometimes success is bringing on new customers. Like, you know, we just rolled out this new feature, got built, we rolled it out, and people love it. We do kind of engage on this, you know, capacity oriented basis. We stay involved with our clients for a pretty long time because people, like, once they get, you know, they get a taste of us, they just don't like to leave.
They don't want to get it. That's a good sign.
You're just so amazing.
That's right. I mean, you know.
How long on average is a partnership?
Gosh, that's a really good question. If I had to say across the board on average, like 4 to 9 months maybe overall.
Wow. Okay.
So I have a couple of clients that have surpassed a year, like we've only been around for 6 years. So we, you know, we don't have anyone who's gone that long. But you know what, I'll tell you what actually is a really big sign of success for us is when people re-engage with us, which it has happened multiple times. Not only like re-engagement means we worked with a company when they were very, very young. We helped them get something into market. We didn't see them for 6 months who brought UX in-house. Maybe they brought product management in-house, which is really, really good. We want companies to scale to the point where they don't need us anymore. They bring PM in-house. Now it's time to rethink the product. It's time to expand the product, and they come back to us because we helped them the first time. Or we work with founders who have a successful exit and now they're ready to do something new. And that's also a really fun thing to do.
Are there like startups or products you worked on that are like kind of like your baby and you're kind of sad to have to
see them go,
step away?
I'm really always sad to see them go, you know, and it's one of those things where it's like, you know, fly into the world, little butterfly. You know, you came to us as a caterpillar, and now you're a beautiful butterfly. It is sad to let them go because I think we do, you know, again, in the way we engage, our mission is to work with product people that we believe in, who are building products that they believe in. So one really great thing is we work with really passionate and motivated people, and that's so fun to be around, and it's so exciting to get to work with people who are so excited and to like change the world in the way they think it should be, or to make the world better in a certain way. And so to kind of disengage with that, it is sad, but luckily a lot of, you know, we get to see that their successes, because their success in our Indianapolis ecosystem is success for us all, really, to make our city better. Or even when we work with clients outside of Indianapolis, of course. Yeah, it is sad, but a lot of times we feel like they'll be back because, you know, we had a great experience with them.
Yeah, it leads into like kind of my next question. So you said you love working with motivated and passionate people, and then usually those times, a lot of them are founders. Some of them are just PMs that are passionate about the product they're working on. When you're thinking of like the product strategy and they give you like their vision of what they want the product to be, how do you kind of manage that relationship where their vision isn't probably the best way to move forward with product?
That's interesting. I mean, research cures everything. You know what I mean? And we're big proponents of research. We're big proponents of talking to your customers, talking to your users, talking to your internal stakeholders, and kind of and talking to them in a way that you're going to get actually really good insights. Like methodologically, we like to be very I don't want to say rigorous. That's not the right word, but we understand how to do research in a way that's not self-serving, or in a way that's just going to validate your biases. And we take that very, very seriously when we do user research. We want to make sure that we are running it, that the questions are in a certain way. Clients can definitely sit in, they can listen, they can ask follow-up questions, but like we're running the show because we understand how to talk to your users in a way that we will get the information that's, again, not just like, oh, do you want feature X? You do? Awesome. Let's go build it. And so a lot of times that we've combated that in that way to say, you know, we've heard you say this and your customers are saying this, or, I mean, we also believe that our experience working with other companies in product and our product experience overall, we feel very empowered to say, look, the way you want to do this is not the right way. And that's, again, the people that we work with are people who one of the reasons they engage with us is because they know that we're not going to just be like yes people. We're not just going to do what they say, but we are going to take a stand, and we're going to push back when we feel like something isn't right. And that's a responsibility that we have. We can't just execute because you tell us to execute. Like, we're a partner, not your subcontractor that you brought in to just get things done.
Yeah, back to like the, being able to kind of guide your decision making through research and process. I feel like, especially working with startups, so maybe I'm just speaking from our perspective, a lot of times it's like there's very little data available to make decisions. Yep. And, for us, it's easier that, because we have domain expertise, or our, product team has domain expertise, you can make some gut decisions and, basically like, just trust in your instincts and, what you know about the space. But, from a product agency perspective, you're expected to come with, frameworks in mind and be able to work according to specific data. So it's like in those cases where there is little information, like what are some of the frameworks that you implement to try and help guide your decision making?
Yeah, that's a really good question. How would
I think I probably kind of get away with it because like we're building a product mainly going to be used by product teams. So we just all right, we're a product person.
How would we want it? Yeah.
How would we use the product? So it kind of helps. You kind of cheat that way, but
totally
that's not always the case.
I mean,
it would not pass the sniff test. Like
well,
your sniff test.
I don't know, because while I am a huge proponent of research, I don't discount that you guys have a gut. You have a gut and it tells you something, and like that gut can be right. So when we do research, sometimes some people, like, I don't know, if you do a lot of research, the more you talk to people, the more you realize that some people just like have this brain that can like go places that other people's can't. And you can see it when you talk to them. And every once in a while in research, one participant will say something and you're like, oh my God, that's absolutely brilliant. And that's an insight that we will carry all the way up to the top. It's not that, now that's not like scientifically rigorous because it didn't pattern, 10 of 18 people didn't say it. But there's something to that. And we've talked about that. People that we've had on our podcast have talked about the idea of having a product instinct. And I think it exists, and I think it's real. And, when we work with founders who are bringing something totally new, you're right, there's no market. You can't research with people. It would just, they're bringing something totally new to the world. A lot of times they're subject matter experts and they have a vision and they just know. And sometimes we just trust that because they seem to know what they're talking about. We always recommend, testing early and often. Can you low code, no code this for a while? Can we get something small into the world? Can we validate these hypotheses? So definitely, if we can't do something really generative up front, we highly recommend being evaluative as you go.
That's a great answer. Yeah, I think Keith, our CEO, might be able to write the book on like just making product decisions based on like instinct and anecdotal conversations that are extrapolated. It's a real research.
It's a mix. I mean, there's no right way to bring a product to the world. There really isn't. Like, if you can do research, great. If you have no people to interview, just do what you can, validate where you can. It's like I said, like, we have these frameworks and we're always like learning new frameworks. We love finding new ways to do things. But at the same time, you just have to approach each client, each problem, each situation authentically. And sometimes you just have to go with your gut, and that's okay. And you just, again, you validate as you go. Those are fun too, not having to do research, and we can just kind of pull some stuff together. Super fun.
Just go with the flow. Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So I'm curious if you had to choose your favorite part or, parts of being, in a product agency or, in a consulting role, as opposed to being in-house working on one particular product, since you have seen both sides. And in my experience, being super like passionate about the product that I work on is going to be really important to me. And hopefully I have like the choice in the future to like, work at companies that we're building products I'm passionate about. So I'd like to hear from your perspective, where the pros on your side are.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I mean, I always, so I don't know if I think I would explain it like this. So in the way that in the past, so when I left school and I had to decide, am I going to go to an agency or am I going to go in-house? The way that I always tried to think about it was, you know, when you're in an agency, it feels a little bit like dating, right? Like you maybe date for a little while and then now you break up, you date somebody else for a little while. Like it's fun and it feels like you can like meet new people. And I don't know, that analogy falls apart.
No, it works.
But
it works.
when you're, you get what I'm saying. When you're in-house though, like you are married to that product and you can't just break up. Like you've got to, so if you work with people who suck, if you have a feature that you don't like you have to make that work and you have to keep going. So they're very different relationships. I think Innovatemap is kind of a mix of both of those things because we work so deeply and in the trenches with people. It does feel like it's not just like, oh, here's the project and here's the scope and it will end on this day. Because I mean, our engagements can last like indefinitely, depending on how long, we stick around with the client. So yeah. And thinking that too, that they might come back again. So I think your original question was, which part do I like the best? Is that right? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the beginning, just like in dating, right? Like the beginning is super fun. Like it's exciting. It's new.
The honeymoon phase.
The honeymoon phase, right? That's exactly right. I shouldn't say that. My wife is listening. If my wife is listening, I love our long-term, marriage that we have. That's my favorite part. But if we're speaking in career metaphors, then say the beginning, because it's fun. I mean, I love like new products. I love new challenges. I mean, people who don't like new challenges don't belong in agencies because that's all we do is we're constantly encountering things we've never done before. And now we have to figure out how to do it. And that's hard. And that can be really challenging and it can be scary too, because it's constantly challenging you as a product professional to apply what you've done to a new situation over and over and over again. But I think it's so exciting to bring something into it. It's so exciting to see something new come into the world. It really is. So I think that's definitely my favorite part.
You said something that's really interesting that kind of is like the perfect segue into my next question. When you're going to these different companies and working with different people, how do you kind of think through like, all right, this is the first thing we need to do first to get this going out the door, or at least to start the momentum going forward towards getting the new product into the world? Like what's the identifying repeatable process that you guys try to do, or maybe there isn't one and you guys just have frameworks you pull from to kind of try to map to one?
Yeah. Person? I mean, we start every single engagement. We start with a discovery. I mean, that is where we kind of sit in a room with the client and we just talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And we ask questions for hours. I don't want to make it sound like it's like days and days and days, but we ask a lot of questions and we ask questions about everything, about your business, about your goals, about your team, about your product, about where it was historically, where would you like it to be? What does success look like? What are your goals? What things have you tried in the past and didn't work? So we really, really dig in, and we kind of, we feel like sometimes it's like therapy to people because like people just like unload of like, we've had this initiative in the past and it didn't work. We know that our customers are unhappy and we don't know why, or, and it's just like when people talk to you in research, right? People can only articulate things to you in the way they understand them. So like when a user says, I'd like this to be a checkbox, I mean, you've got to back them up. Okay, why a checkbox? Like, what is it about that? Well, when I use XYZ, it allows me to turn it off and turn it on. So it's all about like taking people down a couple levels and to be like, why is this the thing that you're pursuing? Why is it important? And that will help us then determine what methodologies, what frameworks, what next steps we apply. We just have to figure out, we have to understand where the client is, what they want, and what we need to do to help them to get to where they want to go, if they even understand where they want to go, which sometimes people don't. So that discovery process it can be like emotionally draining clients to just like, tell us everything. And we like dig in and dirty laundry. And, but it's super important for us, I think, to set that foundation that we are actually doing the things and working on the things that really align to where you would like to take this company or take this product.
Yeah, so it's following probably like that classic triangle: discovery, planning, execution, and just taking
Right.
it step by step, and kind of like pulling in the relevant frameworks or methodologies for getting work done across each stage. And that's probably super variable, and that's probably
Yeah.
really useful for you, and just kind of like furthering your understanding of like product management, product development, because it forces you to basically build like, every type of company possible. And so you're
Yeah.
seeing every type of problem that is possible, and that probably really fast tracks your learning, and you can just, implement that in the next company that has that issue.
Exactly. And it's just like, I mean, you guys get a new feature, right, that you're in charge of. Like, you will always start with the discovery. You'll get the tail team together. We'll try to figure out what the goals are. It's exactly the same process, maybe at a little bit of a higher level, because we need to understand like business goals and things. But yeah, you're exactly right. But it's funny that we talked about that idea of like the honeymoon phase. We've also noticed, though, the longer we work with a client, every once in a while we need to step back and say, let's like rediscover with this client that we've been working with for so long. Because like we call it like when you're married for a long time, sometimes you need to like take a trip to Hawaii. I think we call it the Hawaii trip. Like, you need to like remember like why you got married and like what you love about each other. And so we will try to do that with clients too. We'll try to take a step back and be like, all right, we've been working together for X amount of time. Like, what's changed? What's new? Like, last time we talked, these were the goals, these were the milestones. Has anything changed? What's going on? Because we work with companies that are scaling and growing so quickly. It's really important, and bringing on new stakeholders and hiring new roles and expanding what they're doing. It's always important that we stay really up to date with like what they're doing and what's important to them.
They're your living testimonials.
That's right. Exactly right.
Yeah. So I think earlier you mentioned that like one of your goals for working with clients is actually bringing some of the stuff you guys provide in-house.
Yes.
Does Innovatemap, I believe you guys do. Do you guys work with actually recommending people to hire in-house for these companies? And if so, like, what's like for products, since that's majorly people who listen to this, like what is like the one thing you look for when recommending in a product person, or like maybe top 3? Ooh, make it a little easier.
No, you totally made it harder. Okay, no, So we recommend people, but we do it kind of informally, if that makes sense. So obviously we all have like tech networks, and if we're like, oh man, we worked with this really good person at this other company, and we know that they're out looking for a job, like maybe we'll make a connection here. And I mean, that's the thing. That's a risk. I wouldn't say it's a responsibility, because it's not a responsibility. It's something that we like to do because we like for our clients to work with people that we think are good, because again, it helps them have great success. But that's not a task that we undertake lightly, in that we are always like very conscious of how are we building our networks, who's in our tech networks, and who are we kind of recommending and who are we sending on, especially when it comes to building diverse teams. That's something that's super, super important to us. So we understand that we have a responsibility to build our own personal networks, since we are a lot of the times the people making those introductions. So again, it's something that we do. I want to say, like, it's not like we don't have like Innovatemap, staffing company where we get a cut of whatever. It is something we do casually, but not without thought, I guess I would say.
That might be an interesting pivot.
Innovatemap recruiting. I mean, I'm not going to tell you that we haven't. It's not something, as many people as we like referred along, sometimes we haven't thought about it. But I mean, honestly, like, there's we're proud of people. We like to build products. We don't want to deal with like human resources. That's not our forte.
We've just gone through some hiring, and we know like the costs associated with getting good quality candidates.
No,
so there's money there. That's all I'm trying to say.
No, and honestly, like, I think one of the reasons too, like, we are always like wanting to meet new people, new product people, product talent. Like, one, because Indy like desperately needs more product talent. Like, we have a huge tech ecosystem growing here. We have money coming into the city. We have, companies spinning up, relocating here, and we need more tech talent. We need more product talent, product managers, really specifically, if I want to be specific about it. And so we want to know everybody who's in the city, so that the more people come to the city, the more people get in these companies, the more these companies grow, the more come. I mean, it's all about building our tech ecosystem to be a better place for us, and a place for people who want to work in tech. So that's really important to us. you asked me about the qualities of a product person. Oh, I know what I was going to say. But we want to hire great people too. So we are always, just like you, we're always networking. We're always building networks because we know when we have an opening, we want to make sure that we have the best person. What we look for in product people.
I thought you were trying to avoid it. I was like, I'm gonna remind you.
No, yeah, you're not gonna like. This is not one of those podcasts where you can just get off the hook. I see. I think one thing that I would say, looking for someone to work at Innovatemap, because that's the kind of the lens I like to think about it through. The thing we look for with product people, obviously, foundationally, you have some product experience, of course, but I think the one thing that's really important is that you have a curiosity and wanting to learn, and like a growth, like education mindset. Because so much of what we do as an agency, as product people, as a product manager, is just constantly ask good questions and learn new things and improve ourselves. And you can teach a person how to run a backlog. You can teach a person to use a tool, like a hard skill, but teaching someone to be like legitimately curious it's a really hard thing to do. So that's really what we look for, is people who like to learn, who like to grow, and who ask good questions. Assuming that, of course, all of the other like skills are in place. I think that's one of the most important things. Like, so if we are interviewing someone or we're talking to someone and they can't talk about how they grow, how they learn, how they stay up to date on new things. I don't know. I think it's always really telling when people have like, bless you.
Excuse me.
Really, no, you're good. I wanted to give you like a moment in case you wanted to like cut it out. I think it's really telling when people have, personally, I think when they have really interesting hobbies. That's really interesting. That's I think you can tell a product person when they're just like constantly cannot satisfy this insatiable curiosity about the world. So that's a really, really big thing that we look for in people.
That's a good point. That's and the people I've been interviewing this week, that was a question I ask everybody. Like, what are you passionate about? Yeah. Like, I just want to know, like, I hope you're excited about a lot of things.
Yeah.
I don't care what it is. One of the people this week was makes latte art. I was like, that's sweet.
Latte art?
Yeah.
It's so fascinating.
Yeah, she's really into latte art.
I want to actually start that because my sister just bought an espresso. So I want to start like.
There we go.
Yeah, see, like. I mean, that's a really, really good example of like someone who's just like wants to learn something new and is like fascinated by something else. And I think that's so interesting.
All right, don't tell her name so she doesn't hire her.
Yeah, don't. I'm gonna get her here in Indy. That's what I'm gonna get her to move here. So
there's enough for everyone. So I actually I feel like we haven't. We've neglected to address the fact that how we met each other. It's just super interesting. So we actually were approached by Ellie at the Innovatemap team to come on your podcast, Better Product.
That's right.
And, we can't go the show without giving you guys a plug, obviously. Shout out to Better Product.
That.
I don't know whose episode is going to be out first, but, anyways, it's a great opportunity, kind of like a co-marketing opportunity. So appreciated you guys bringing us on. But yeah, I think, there's obviously a lot of reasons people, especially companies, start company-sponsored podcasts. But you being the first podcast that we've come on officially and have, the first podcast guest who is a podcast host, I would love to hear from your perspective, what got you and to start the podcast Better Product, and what does that mean to Innovatemap? Like, what's the end goal?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, it's so funny. The podcast is, it was obviously so great having you guys on it. I don't know, I would assume this is how you feel. I love doing this podcast because I love talking to really smart product people. It is an absolute dream of mine because, again, I'm a person who likes to learn and I like to be better and I like to grow. And being able to ask these really smart people who are doing really amazing things, these questions, hear their answers, ask follow-ups, has helped me, I think, become a better product professional myself. And so that it's been like such a great opportunity to be a part of it. We really started the podcast. I mean, number one, because we think we have a different take on product, especially thinking about being a digital product agency, a model that doesn't really exist, kind of a category that we're creating. You know, we do believe that like the goal for our company is to help the world build better product. And so that being like better product being like usable, like people know how to use it. It's delightful. It's great. It solves their problems. It's valuable. It's something that they actually want. It has a market. It's really resonating. What's the last one? Usable, marketable. It's marketable. Duh. Better product is marketable. And it sells. It talks to, don't tell Ellie that I messed that up. But it sells.
I'm sure she'll listen.
Oh yeah. She's just like shaking her head at me right now, I'm sure.
Shout out to Ellie.
Yeah. So I mean, for sure. But that's, you know, marketable, valuable, usable. That is our philosophy of better product. And so really we wanted to bring people on that we thought embodied that. And also, I mean, we saw a gap in the landscape. I mean, there were so many podcasts talking about business, you know, how I built this, you know, how I took this business from nothing to here over the span of 10 years. When we started the podcast, we would really get in the weeds with people, really nitty gritty product stuff. And that's how we wanted it. We wanted people to listen to an episode and have literal takeaways to say, wow, do XYZ because I heard this person had a very similar situation to me. I think we've gone up a level in the last year or so, having more high level conversations, more strategic conversations. But we really, I mean, product is its own discipline. It's its own skill set, and it's really emerging as a really specific way to build, to bring product into the world. And there's like, it's almost like this infrastructure is like foundation is building up around product, and we wanted to be part of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, the high level conversations are definitely what I enjoy from yours, and it's definitely a divergence from our podcast, where you know our tagline is like we get the job done, but we're still figuring it out. You know, we don't claim to have the answers or to understand the frameworks or theory better than anyone. So we don't dive too deeply into those conversations. Instead, we try and bring to light conversations that other people might be thinking of or wanting to have, but just don't have the opportunity to hear about. And because that's the space that we felt was missing, was just like open, honest conversations around products and not getting too deep in the weeds, but just asking those, questions everybody's curious about.
Yeah. And I mean, we had this conversation too, that like, you don't go, I mean, right now you don't really go to school for a product at all. No. So everybody learns on the job. And I think product people are inherent hustlers because they got in this job because they found it, or they saw it and they wanted it, and they moved laterally, or they did something. And so I think it's such an interesting community. And I think what you guys are doing is super important as well, that like, having your perspective of being new to product and just like being so open and vulnerable, but like, here's exactly where we are in this process, I think is awesome. And I really I think what you do is great. So
thank you.
You didn't bring me on this podcast to compliment you, but I am. So
We'll take it.
And I think we'll sign off on that point. We'll take the compliment and get out before.
All right. Before things change. Cool.
All right. Well, thanks, Anna. We loved having you on, and I'm sure we'll try to steal you back on in the future at some point.
Yeah,
that'd maybe great to talk with you guys.
Maybe even get some product therapy.
Hey, give me a call. I'm always happy to listen to your product problems.
Awesome. Thanks so much.